Hi, I'm Krista Kim, a digital artist and cultural leader at the forefront of art and technology. You're tuned into the edge of AI, where we're exploring the heartbeat of innovation and creativity in the digital age. Keep your heartbeat synchronized and your minds open. Let's dive in.
Hello, AI podcast passengers. Jump on in. Here's what's to come on today's journey. Find out how Krista Kim's HeartSpace is using biometric AI to revolutionize digital art at Art Dubai. Why data sovereignty is more important than ever in the age of AI and how Krista is solving for it. Lastly, let's delve into how she's working on a personal solution for you to protect against surveillance capitalism. All this and more, take your seat.
Welcome aboard the Edge of AI podcast. Snap into your safety belt and prepare to explore the depths of the rapidly expanding AI universe. Each episode is a dispatch featuring hyper-relevant reports from the pilots, pioneers, and passengers aboard the AI rocket ship. We explore the latest use cases and developments in AI, hear from experts building tech, and learn how this disruptive force is transforming industries and society.
I'm Ron Levy, your captain for today's voyage. Just like most of you, I've embraced the spirit of exploration throughout my life, from starting my own business before graduating high school to traversing the world's most challenging terrains. I've always sought out new frontiers. I built one of the largest award-winning custom home companies, and most recently, I've navigated complex regulations while founding and leading a crypto public company that is dedicated to applying technology and training. Buckle up and get ready. Let's tackle uncharted territories in AI today with curiosity as our guiding star. So today we've got Krista Kim. She's an ultra contemporary artist, cultural leader. She's renowned for her exploration of digital consciousness. She's the founder of the Techism Movement. We'll learn more about that as we go here. She's a Metaverse editor for Singapore Vogue and World Economic Forum cultural leader. She continues to push the boundaries of art and tech, inspiring a new dialogue and our new digital future. So, welcome aboard the Edge of AI, Krista.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Ron. Nice
That's
to be here.
fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, it's an honor to have you here today. Your background, it's really diverse. There's so much out there on you, which means you've been busy. And there's a lot that's gone on. So let's dive right in. You founded Techism Movement in 2014.
Yeah.
And how's it? Give us a bit of history on that and its intentions.
Well, I thank you. I invite everyone to check it out. You can Google Techism Manifesto. I wrote it in 2014 in response to my addiction to my smartphone, which is a new invention, right? It was only 2014, so it was around for like less than 4 years. And I realized that I stopped using pen and paper. I come from this analog upbringing. In school, we would write notes, and everything was done in binders, very paper and pen and pencil. And then all of a sudden, we were all just in the throes of a digital adaptation, right? And I felt, wow, what is this? What effects is this happening on me? And I'm always thinking about, my reaction to any new technology that's introduced to our society. And I realized that the apps that were designed on the smartphone were not humane. In fact, they were sociopathic, narcissistic, not designed for humanity, not designed for optimizing us, but
Wow,
designed.
I'm only going to interject because you detected what was going on very early.
Yeah,
I could recite all that in the last few years because it really hit me. I didn't get it that early on. I'm a
yeah,
really big believer that there's something psychological about using a pen and paper and
yeah,
writing.
yeah.
You're producing something the other way also, but and there's some advantages on both sides, but there is a psychological benefit to a pen and paper. That's just a personal opinion.
It is
Can you elaborate on that?
silence and contemplation. The moment to yourself to think, right? To think through the ideas that you are reading or you are creating, And that silence is essential for any human being because we are hunters and gatherers. And
Wow.
when you think about how our brains are designed, it's to focus on one thing and execute it and to study it in depth. And we have to know ourselves, right? In that silence, when we have that interaction with pen and paper, we reflect. And unfortunately, with the advent of digital, the digital age and apps, and unfortunately Web 2, these companies are designing these apps to become predatory and use us as product and to use us to gain monetary value. And so that is, and I knew back in 2014 that the lack of humanities in technology, in the ethics, in the culture of Silicon Valley is a void that would create mega problems, but psychologically, socially, politically. It just wouldn't be good because we would basically, be devoid of culture and human connection. And that's exactly what happened. Since 2014, we are now in the biggest existential mental health crisis in human history. And the Techism Manifesto was a precursor to that, is foreshadowing what was going to happen in the future. But really, in speaking to the artistic community and the creative community, in that, when I was enrolled in a Masters of Fine Art program at the time, LaSalle College of the Arts, or a master's in digital art, I realized that there was a major silo between the arts and technology. And I knew that those two silos and the lack of a bridge is the void that needed to be filled, because we need human expression and we need artists to participate in the arena of tech in order to guide the culture toward greater human connection. So that's what the Techism Manifesto is really about.
So powerful. What came to me as you were talking is we have to write, physically write, to get
Yeah,
to know ourselves,
yeah,
literally. And it is that you said something about the quiet moments or the quiet time.
totally. The
What
thinking man, Rodin's thinking man. You think about that sculpture, and that's the human condition.
Yeah, really, really great. And so you took the path of not hating on the tech, not liking it
Mm.
as much as realizing the downside of it and trying to bridge the two through art, right?
It's a
Through
tool. Okay, so I believe in the writings of Marshall McLuhan. I'm a political science major, right? So I really understand the power of words, especially when they're written down, and how they can change the world. And I'm also a student of Marshall McLuhan. Medium is the message, where any new technology that's introduced to, scaled in society, has real effects on our psychology, our sociology, how we interact, how we are as human beings, how we develop and evolve. And I always see it through that lens of the medium is the message. So when I look at technology, I see it as a tool, and I don't hate it. It's scaled, so it's here. It's a Pandora's box. You can't put it back in the box. So what do you do with it? Well, as an artist, what you do is you show the possibilities of how the technology can be used as a mode of human expression and optimization, and bringing people together, because that's what art does. It's the power of bringing people together and having that common ground that we are missing. The void is here, and we can feel it. People are looking for the connection because the algorithms. Here's the one thing that I've realized is that technology, for the first time in history since the smartphone was introduced, technology was leading culture instead of religion and humanities and arts. It's technology.
that one just took my breath away. I mean, you defined, and I don't think the knowledge of that on some level is that novel, but defining it the way you just did brings it home.
Thank you. Yeah. So that has been, the reflection as an artist that has been, that's my brain and how it operates. And I can't explain it, but I connect those dots. And so my artistic practice has always been to look at the screen, for example. And there was a screen, we're addicted to the frickin' screen. Our eyes are glued to the screen. And all those messages that bombard our retina into our brain. I mean, that's all programming us, right? And so I thought, why not create Zen on the screen? Why not create meditative experiences of Zen? Because I lived in Japan for 3.5 years. I have a very interesting sort of global background in terms of where I've lived. I've lived in Seoul, Tokyo, and Singapore over a course of 13 years. And it was in Japan where I had my true formative artistic epiphany at the Roenji Temple Garden in Kyoto. And it was at this garden where I realized, my goodness, my first encounter, I entered a state of Zen within 10 minutes of sitting there because it was an immersive experience. It was designed by the monks 500 years ago with this technology of gardening, that they were able to create the service to humanity that will always be relevant for millennia. Like after us, it's going to be around. It will still be, I mean, relevant for us. And that's the power of art. And I thought, my God, I want to create immersive experiences of Zen. I want to carry this tradition forward from these Zen monks, and I want to bring it into the 21st century through digital. So as you see behind me, I started creating these very Zen colorscapes, because there's so much color and there's so much distraction and stuff going on the screens. I wanted to just erase it all and just bring it down to its fundamental values of color, light, and sound, and just go there and go really, really minimal and just quiet the brain. And because I'm a meditator, I meditate twice per day. I practice transcendental meditation. I believe in the incredible benefits of meditation and the fact that we need to quiet our minds. Meditation will save us from the machine, and art will save us from ourselves.
Well, that's a perfect lead up into HeartSpace, right? It's an installation at Art Dubai that was really transformative in a lot of ways. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yes. So moving on from creating video art installations on screen and immersive experiences like Times Square. I did a takeover in February 2022. I thought, well, AI has now just entered our collective consciousness, and it's a major thing now. It's a major force, and we will see the world as pre-AI and post-AI. And so when I was really just sort of observing what AI is and learning more about it, um, there are two things that come to mind. And as a political science major, I understand the importance of sovereignty, individual sovereignty, meaning you own your own property and you could make your own decisions. You have free will within a society. And that is the basically building blocks of Western democracy, is that we have our own individual sovereignty, right? Under the law, it's protected. Well, yeah, we can definitely own physical property. We can own physical assets. However, and they're protected by the government, but they're protected, that's what good governance is about. But then when you think about the digital sphere, there should be no separation between our digital self and our physical self. They should be treated the same, one and the same. So currently in the surveillance capitalism system, our digital data, which is an asset, is taken from us for free, exploited and monetized. And the information is taken from us because we have no mode of keeping it and storing it, and there's no architecture to self-custody data for now, until up to this point. And the predominant system is very much, it's unethical, and it is violating our human rights. Data is an asset. It should be recognized as an asset. Our digital assets should be protected by the law. We should have data sovereignty. And so reflecting on this issue, because, if you look at a lot of social issues we have right now, we're being gaslit. We're being gaslit messages on our devices 24/7. And it's not good for us. And what we need to do is to own our own data so that that data is not then used in algorithms to manipulate us.
And there was a time not long ago, I'll just talk about Web 2, where someone owned the data. Either you owned it as an individual or some company owned it to gather the data. And that's just the way it was. There's something newer. This is, all this is setting the foundation for our AI conversation, everything we've talked about. And I think it's an important foundation.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an example of a project for auto insurance. It came to me recently. I have a newer vehicle,
Mhm.
and whatever they sent me, I got an email. I realized they're analyzing how hard I hit the brakes, how fast I go, what time of day I drive, all of these things, right? And
Wow.
it kind of haunted me for a quick moment. It's like, wait a minute. All of this is data that one subpoena that might not even be justified, right? Someone could grab all this
What
and know
what
my exact whereabouts. There's like the idea of privacy literally had gone away, but there is a Web3 project now
Mhm.
that allows that data to be collected, but stored in such a way that they can write insurance based on all that data. So you can get individualized insurance instead of just zip code, right?
Brilliant.
But that data gets anonymized,
Good,
doesn't get kept. So they
good,
use it for good, but then it doesn't exist anymore.
good.
And I don't know why. I don't want everybody knowing exactly where I am at all times, but I just don't. I mean, I grew up in an era where we had our sort of freedom and privacy, and this
Yeah,
feels like it's taking it away. But
yeah.
I think a combination of Web3, certainly AI, and maybe even crypto in the example
Yes.
I gave. I think crypto has to play a role in there somewhere.
Right.
But these my gosh, you said pre AI versus post AI is the way they're going to look at the world at a later
Mhm,
date.
mhm.
This is kind of transition we're talking about here. So once again, you've really illuminated things crystal clear.
Thank you. I mean, whenever you think about we can learn from history. We can learn about how democratic, systems came to be, and it's because people's sovereignty was protected and assets were protected by law. And we need to do the same for a digital identity because, as you know, the more power and surveillance that they get away with, they will keep on accumulating that power, and they're not going to surrender it. It will only get worse and worse. We
And
have
the
to.
the they you're describing could be a government, could be a big company, but it could also be 1,000 little companies it, with that same end goal happening.
Yeah,
So
and when you think about the threat here, here's the existential threat, Ron. Because with AI and with AGI around the corner, automatic general intelligence, which has its own, decision making, its own creative, will, people are going to be able to create really bad systems that can, really harm society with free data, with taking our data, our personal data, and using it against us but the invasiveness of it is more profound than you think because you're talking about insurance company, well, medical insurance, what about bio data? Okay, so what about, like, now they're saying that just through observing children's eye movements on their devices, you can predetermine whether their sexual orientation. So, the kind of Orwellian surveillance that we're looking at right now is a real existential threat, and it's fascism. It's fascist, and it's actually a true threat to the future of our human civilization. And as a person who understands like the steps that can be taken toward that Aurelian future, what I want to impart in the world through my art and through my advocacy for data sovereignty are art installations that compel people to think about AI in a different way. Because quite frankly, the monopolies, and I call them monopolies, the monopolies that are currently using AI and developing AI are very powerful. And if it's only for commercial means and for means obviously that are not going to be in every individual's best interest, that is for sure, because that is not their intention. Their intention is to make as much money as possible. And I think that what we need to do is recognize that AI should be a public good, that it should have very strong ethics, and that making money should not be the top priority. It should be optimizing human potential and serving humanity. I think those should be the main pillars of developing AI, and there should be a charter that is developed around the world around AI because it should be treated as such. It's a more powerful than a nuclear weapon.
so how so I don't think there's many people that would disagree with what you said, and that is the dream and that is what should happen. But unfortunately, a lot of life isn't built on shoulds, they're built on the way things actually end up happening.
Sure.
And look at the regulators had a hard time regulating Web 2, a hard time regulating crypto. I don't know what chance they stand at regulating AI that's moving at warp speed. I think what we're going to see 3 months from now, we haven't even considered yet, right? That's how quick it's moving. So
Mhm.
I don't know how a government study and people corral all that. And maybe they can to some degree. I certainly hope novelistically they can. But I think it's a big challenge. Is there a way in which us as individuals can operate in the Web3 and in the AI world and protect ourselves from all that without us having to rely on whether it's regulators or the integrity of big companies?
You were definitely correct in saying that Web3 and blockchain would be instrumental in helping us preserve our data sovereignty, and that is in fact the case. Blockchain technology, and I think that NFTs and the first hype cycle of NFTs is really just, it was a hype cycle. It was the intro of NFTs, and let's say it as it is. It was an absolute disaster the way that it was executed. These board apes and all of these PFP projects, it really became a casino in the end, which was not the intention. The real use case for blockchain will be to basically help us authenticate our digital assets and authenticate our digital identity, which would be very interesting against the existential threat of AI creating deep fakes of us and trying to defraud others using our fake identities, etc. And even creating derivatives of IP, creators IP, etc. Like as an artist, I'm extremely cognizant of the threat of fakes of my art and this widespread monetization of my IP without any direct benefit to myself.
There's a
And yeah.
Yeah, we've interviewed a couple companies, and one of them was focused on audio. So
Mm.
they're literally creating a library, so you can go in and put your own voice in there. They'll certify it was you, and then any fakes that come out, they get measured against that. And the AI actually says 90% chance this is a fake. They kind of analyze it. Same thing with images and videos, and they'll actually give you a heat map of yourself, comparing an AI generated one to your original one, which you put on file.
Yes.
So these are
Solutions.
solutions, right? And they're probably going to look different than that ultimately. But these things are happening, and I think they're critically important. There's a lot of people that don't spend their lives in Web3 of any kind, and they'll hear this, and it seems pretty
They
sci.
don't need to. It's going to be invisible soon. It will be invisible, right?
That's exactly right. So tell me a little bit about that. I know we mentioned HeartSpace, but give us a little more detail on HeartSpace.
So when I met, oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention, you were asking like how can the individuals deal with this crisis and how can they be informed? There is a book that's coming out by my friend Michael Clark, Data Revolution, in January. Michael Clark actually was on the show, right?
Yes, that's right. I recall. I interviewed him. Yes.
And we actually worked very closely together as well in Julia AI. And I think that, in this moment, there is going to be a cultural movement toward data sovereignty because it is just the natural right thing to do. I mean, people will gravitate what works for them,
Yeah.
their best
Michael
interest.
spoke very eloquently about that as well. So, um,
Brilliant, of course.
without
Brilliant.
reading it, I can say I'm probably endorsing that book. It's probably going to be great. He's such a brilliant guy.
Well, the more advocacy and the more education, the better. And definitely, there are going to be projects popping up within the next few years that are going to provide solutions, as you had mentioned. And HeartSpace is a project that I worked on, sponsored by Julie Spare for Art Dubai earlier this year. Um, I met a company called Tenbeo AI based in Brussels. The CEO, Atalas Kratuni, and I were friends and immediate friends. She's a brilliant woman who created this protocol, AI generative protocol, taking your ECG heartbeat and then creating a unique heart signature out of it because every human being has a unique heartbeat
I
algorithm.
literally was not aware of that. As soon as I heard you say it, makes total
That's
sense.
it.
But it's
And
not something I thought of.
it's very spiritual, isn't it? It's very poetic and spiritual, I find,
Mm,
and I love that concept, right? I mean, we all share that wonderful, and it's very soulful. It connects us
mm.
on a spiritual level. And the good thing is that this technology is unhackable by AI because it is an electromagnetic circuit that you create when you enter your ECG on a device. You have to be alive, and you have to be Krista Kim, or you have to be Ron Levy to actually input the information, right? So everything else that is visible can be hacked or copied by AI, but the heartbeat is different. And so this is a solution that she uses for banks and high government security, physical locations, etc. And I was so inspired by the poetic aspect of the message of the heartbeat. And I thought, wow, when you think about AI and the future of AI and how we're going to communicate, if we can communicate using our biometrics, like our heartbeats, and we can eventually communicate with plants, we can communicate with trees, we can understand how the soil is doing, we can understand the oceans and animals and whales and wildlife. I mean, think about the scope of transcendent communication we can have based on that data alone, right? And if we could, because the heartbeat emits an emotion, that algorithm, you can actually tell how people feel. So with this information, and could be, of course, we're not going to give away our data, but just that information, if it's anonymous, then we can tell how people are doing and have more empathy in the world, right? And use that in a way that can bring people together. And so that's what HeartSpace is. It's demonstrating through 4 inputs at a time in an immersive space. We have 4 plinths, 4 devices, input devices. We have an immersive space. And on the screen, you have a beautiful flow fields, waveforms that are created by each individual, because each individual has their own unique color of their emotion and the waveform and the movement. So when they input 4 people at a time, you can see the co-creation of an artwork that is like a social fabric. And I really wanted to use that symbolism of social fabric because our social fabric has been destroyed for so many years. And I think that AI actually has a chance to help to bring that back, to transcend that. And that's the message behind HeartSpace, which we're touring around the world.
Is there a relationship between one person's heart rhythm that you described that you can now measure, right?
Yes.
And I'll call it a fingerprint of their heartbeat, and someone else's. And because we've all done this, you walk into a room, there's someone there that we just really get along with very quickly, and there's other people we just don't, right? So is there something that can be measured with that, or is there a link to those two things?
Well, this particular artwork doesn't measure that coherence, but I'm sure you can. 100% you can, Ron. And that's what I'm talking about. We can measure coherence. We can measure that. We can and Discord. We can figure that out. We can see it live.
So look at this podcast, and the purpose of it is AI, and this is for our listeners. All of this conversation is directly and indirectly about AI. And the part of it that's indirectly, and maybe some people are saying, where's the meat for AI itself? AI is a study in itself. You've got to understand these nuances, because as you learn of new projects and you start interacting with it, these conversations are going to make you realize things that you wouldn't otherwise realize. And I think they'll make you either embrace that particular one or run away from it, right? And so I think it's foundational to the industry. Can you speak to that comment a little bit?
There's a lot of fear around AI.
Yeah.
Is there? You feel that, right? From the
Justified.
general populace.
Justified.
People like us understand AI, so we probably are not as fearful, or maybe we are.
Right?
But I feel
I might say that it creates more fear the more you understand, but keep going. Yeah.
well, here's my point. I believe that AI is an existential threat, definitely, without data sovereignty. If we don't have the architecture to control our own data, self-custody our own data, and also monetize on our own data, then we will be slaves to the matrix. I believe that. But if we are, and there's now a project actually that I'm involved in. It's called Julia AI. And I'm not going to tell too much about it because it's still in stealth mode, but this company is really looking at creating an offline personal AI model. Why do we need to be part of a Borg, a giant LLM? Like, why is that really necessary for the average person? When all you really need to do is have a plug-in to an AI that knows you, that protects your data, is offline, that knows everything about you, every minutia of your life. all of your characteristics, all of the people that you communicate with, what you communicate with, what's going on in your life, what are the nuances of your life. Know everything about you, know your weaknesses and your strengths, and is your guardian.
It's really powerful, and then you get into your own digital twin. That could become an avatar that actually goes about the metaverse, goes about the world as you, and pretty
Lives
much
forever,
reports back.
lives forever and can give advice to your progeny.
I left
And then
that for a
and
moment
then
of silence.
your AI guardian, see what all I need to know is how my AI guardian can basically personify me and enhance my own personal capabilities, just like any other language model would, of course. And basically, I can modulate it and design it how I want. So if I want your expertise, Ron, and I want to collaborate with you on a project or know about something you're an expert on, then I can plug into yours, for a fee or for free for friends, network with each other, exchange ideas, and have huge information and ways to move forward. And I think that as a child, as children, this is the possibility of creating your greatest tutor, your protector, your doctor, your coach. This is going to be the future of how we're going to optimize every human being, because we are against large language models and we are against AGI. And if we're going to be placed in the arena of AGI, we need to have a super intelligence that represents us and protects our interests.
One of the big differences between the world of Web 2 and Web 3 was with Web 2, we gave away our data without really realizing how powerful it was going to be for others, right? We didn't really know it. At a certain point, we knew it, but the sort of cat's out of the bag, and it's just, we had to live with it.
That data is an asset, which Michael Clark talks about.
Yes, it is absolutely an asset. And so what you're describing is something we can protect. So we could have that digital twin, that AI agent, I'll call it, that learned us as individuals that we control. And the difference is they can't do a change of terms and service and take it away. It's got to live in a thing that
Yours,
we absolutely control. And if someone wants a piece of it to change or anything else, we have the ability to approve or disprove that. We have full autonomy over that. And that is absolutely one of the biggest differences going into Web3 that
right?
is critical.
I mean, this is what Zuckerberg made a big announcement recently, right? That's a huge announcement, Ron, that he would be able to create, that we would live with, like there would be billions of AI agents, and that's true. He actually made Llama open source. That's a big difference with OpenAI, which is supposed to be open. It's a complete, uh, that's a
Yeah.
misnomer,
Well, there
right?
was a lawsuit filed against them, later dropped, but I think people are just figuring out what to do because it's
There will be many lawsuits because
yeah,
YouTube is already going to sue them for all of the copyright and all of the IP that they are scraping. They're scraping IP from all of these major platforms, and they're scraping information from us.
yeah.
So we have to change that paradigm so that we are empowered with our own AI, personal LLMs, small LLMs, and they're smarter too. Think about this. How smart is a major LLM that you on a chat GPT that you are working with, collaborating with on a daily basis, that only has inputs on certain tasks that you're doing, or things that you are sharing with it? Like, but is it really, does it really know you?
Well, know you and also the data it's giving you, because if you use AI on subjects you know something about, how often do you get answers that you need to correct? They're wrong, right? But imagine you're using it for a subject you don't know much about. You're trying to learn, and you're getting incorrect information.
So the best way to do it, and I'm sure you'll probably agree, is to basically speak or interact or collaborate with the AI guardians of the experts that you need information on.
Yeah. Wow. There you go.
Yeah,
Now you've bypassed that whole middle ground,
yeah.
and
You
you've
don't
gone to
need
those
a
that
large
you trust.
language. Yeah, you don't need a super large language model that has no expertise, and people are not going to share their expertise with a large language model. People are so afraid of sharing all of their IP. Let's protect our IP, and let's really create super smart LLMs, smaller LLMs, personalized, that are really going to change the world, because that's where we're going to have a superpower of building solutions for the world's problems on that level of like personalization and hyper productivity, hyper scalability, hyper intelligence.
So important because it is out of the genie's out of the bottle. It's moving forward, and I kind of go back to one of my earlier questions: is how do we, I, how do we make sure we all these I think very important points you're bringing up are actually adhered to, and maybe that's how we do it through educating individuals and having the individual be able to make their own decisions and do this.
There's an
And
education crisis, right? You're right, Ron. It's education. Right now, it's all about educating the entire world on not only like data privacy and data sovereignty, but how do you how do you create your own AI guardian and with an offline LLM like Julia AI? How do you use it? And how do you build your own AI guardian? And the whole world will get into this. This is going to be, I think, the solution for education. This is, I mean, when you look at the current education system, my children are in high school, and I'm like, wow, like this is really redundant. I mean, like they're going to school. It's like none of this is going to be relevant. Why am I even playing this charade? Like, I want to build this AI education model for the kids to learn because they're going to learn from AI. And then adults in the room, teachers, mentors, they're going to be what they're supposed to be. They're going to guide society and create a village of, stewardship of the next generation through character, ethics, advice, wisdom. I mean, creating community. The school system needs to be completely revamped.
Yeah, I like that you added those things at the end because that was what was coming up for me was school isn't just about knowing things, right? How to do math, how to do this, how to do that. That's certainly one part of it, and it's very important, but
Yeah.
not without the other part, which is how to think, how to learn, how to interact. Those are critical. You can't lose them, and a computer can't give you that.
No, computer can't give you that. But you know what's exciting? The way I see like how kids can interact, because they're already on Roblox, they're already collaborating, they're already doing cool things together. They've got their own incredible subculture. I think that if they have their own AI guardians, right? And they have their own interests, their own geniuses in their own, every child is a genius. Right? We all believe that.
Yeah.
They're plugged into that. They know it. They're optimized with their AI guardian. And if there's an issue or a problem that they want to solve, and they want to get together and do it, they can collaborate, and their AI guardians can help them facilitate that. And then of course get experts and mentors and people plugged in and all of these Lego stacking it. And it's super learning. It's like you're learning in the field of how to collaborate and how to create solutions.
Yes. I want to change gears a little bit because there's more to cover here than we're going to have time for, unfortunately. But I want to make sure we hit on a few things. One is the international side of the industry, the AI industry, and of you combined. So
Mhm.
you advise the World Economic Forum. You've been to Art Dubai with your art. By the way, it's amazing how little time we spent talking about your art, which is a big takeaway here because you are infamous for your art, your digital art, and we want to hit that. But I also know you've talked a lot about Korea, South Korea, and what they've been doing. And maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was in South Korea and I got taken through a particular building. I think it was north of Seoul that the government built
Mhm.
for new startup companies to house them all, get government grants, and they would it's a beautiful building. If any of you or listeners are from LA, you know the Blue Whale and the design buildings in Hollywood, which Krista, I know you're familiar with. It
Yeah.
looked like that, state of
Mm.
the art, all glass, beautiful, and these startup companies were in there getting supported, and they divide the floors so that they can help each other, right? Very collaborative. But the
Mhm.
government was behind it, and I walked through there, and I was just mind blown to say, how much is going on in South Korea because of the attitude of the government backing that and
Correct.
giving power to young developers within the AI space. And I know you've talked about it a lot, and I don't know what your connection is over there, what your thoughts are. I guess we'll broaden it out to the internationally, what's going on, what can continue to be born and live here versus elsewhere, and then of course the power South Korea might be getting, which I love, right? Independent power, because they're so into the industry?
I think that Korea is one major focus, but I think that the Middle East now is also really emerging as well, UAE and Saudi.
And you just
Uh,
got back from Riyadh with Edge of companies as well.
Correct. Yes, I participated in the Outer Edge conference, which is incredible, co-hosted by NEOM. And the NEOM project is a good thing to mention because it's pretty groundbreaking in that they want to create a conscious city. They're very futurist and um, they're very breakthrough in the new concepts they want to introduce. They want to introduce concepts that have never been developed before. Stuff that has never been repeated. New, starting from first principles, right? So, how do you create a conscious city? Once again, the Julia AI model of creating your own personal AI that communicates with the Neom AI, and they can, if good governance is when the data is accurate and the government is able to disperse resources where they're needed with the data. It's not guesswork. It's not like analog. It's not bullshit guessing, and it's not lobbying interest, right? And so that's the ideal scenario. And I think that, it's exciting to see how Dubai has become a real central hub for that as well. Toronto, of course, historically, with the University of Toronto. Professor Jeff Hinton is an OG and one of the founders of like AI studies, period. And I think that, of course, MIT is a very important place as well, and Switzerland. I think globally it's exciting. But the real sort of data sovereignty movement, which I'm very excited about, is really coming out of the EU and out of the Middle East. And I think that's where things have to head. There has to be a balance. And I think that you're going to see much more of that. I think with the current, power of the Web2 companies in the US, you're not going to see as much innovation in that sense, but the spirit of that exists here. And I'm not losing hope. I think that there is, it's kind of like, uh, it data sovereignty is something um, that's a very American values, very, very much deeply rooted in American values, actually.
I agree with that, and that's again, I never heard it said like that, but I think it's exactly right, and the industry absolutely needs it. So let's make sure we hit a little more of your art. So you talked about HeartSpace, Continuum. We touched on it, but um, talk about Times Square a little bit, what you did there, and I think you've got it going on. I'm not sure what city it was internationally. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, Continuum is a meditative video sound and light experience. It's immersive, and currently I'm showing at OuterNet London. The OuterNet is the largest LED screen immersive space in Europe. It's at Charing Cross, and it's a free public art installation space. And there's some wonderful art being displayed there. It's well curated, and I was part of that for Digital Art Week. We started earlier in the year, I think it was April, and it's continuing until October. The next Continuum installation will be at Sunderland in the UK on a giant new screen that was placed there, and that will start in September. I also have a plan to go to the Dominican Republic and show Continuum in a major space in the center of the city with a developer there, and that will be in November. So Continuum is continuing, to show around the world, and I basically collaborate with people on the ground. The message is basically to create a meditative space in a public realm, so that people have like a sense of wellness in the city, and that Times Square was like the ultimate exhibition for Continuum. We took over 111 screens right after the pandemic, February of 2022. I had presented a proposal to Times Square Arts that runs that programming in 2018. So it took us a few years to actually do the show, but I was very happy to do it, especially after COVID, and it was the right message at the right time. And it was viral on TikTok to the point where Coca-Cola was the only brand that didn't participate. They had a very large tower behind the bleachers when when you were in Times Square, and a lot of Gen Z TikTokers were saying, F Coca-Cola, they don't care about us. And it's quite funny because the curator, Jean Cooney, she told me, Krista, Coca-Cola got on the phone and they called me and they asked me to include them into the programming after your exhibition. So it was quite powerful.
Wow. Uh, it really is I mean, you're so multidimensional, but the art, I think, is at the core of it. And
I see it all as art, Ron. To me, it's all art. I actually think that Steve Jobs is an artist,
yeah,
and I see Elon Musk as an artist in some ways as well.
yeah.
And it's all work because every like startup project that I do has never been done before. And it's a vision that, a lot of people think is crazy, but that's what it takes. If when you're ahead of your time or you just see things, and unfolding, I just have that ability to sort of predict what's going to happen. And so I just became an entrepreneur by mistake, but truly I see it all as art, and I literally wake up every day excited to work on all these projects. It's all very creative and artistic to me.
So as you describe yourself and some of that, it's did AI come to you, or did you come to AI? I'll leave it as an open question. We don't need to answer that. But that becomes a rhetorical question a little bit, right? Because not just you, others within the industry, it's the same thing. It's kind of how did I get here? And I was listening to a great interview of Michael Saylor last week, and
Yeah.
in the interview, he said he was about to retire on the beach, which of course he could have, and resign from being CEO of MicroStrategy and just basically be retired and do nothing. That's when he dug deep and he found Bitcoin, and he said it was like a rebirth. And now he doesn't have enough time to do everything he wants to do, and I think that's true for a lot of us.
Mm,
He's just able to state things crystal clear the way only he can. But
so
it's
eloquent.
true. When you start understanding this deeply, you start understanding the change that's under our feet, and it's super scary and super exciting. And I'll say it actually, it's super exciting, super scary, and super exciting all at the same time. So we'll take it. With that, we're going to dive into what we call AI wants to know, and these are some questions we're going to shoot at you that are going to probably make you uncomfortable.
Okay.
This is mainly the personal Krista answering this,
Okay.
just to get you know better. So we're going to start firing away. Short answers is just fine. Just kind of hit them and go. So, what's the first thing you ever remember being proud of?
My artwork.
Okay. What do you need help with that you wish you did not?
Oh, numbers. I have dyslexia of numbers called dyscalculia, and so AI will be very helpful to anyone who's neurodivergent. Let's put it that way.
Oh, wow. And I never would have guessed that one. What do others often look to you for help with?
Oh my God. Um, I I'm a good listener, and I like to give advice on life, I guess well-being, mental health. I'm a real meditator. I've gone through my own mental health journey, and you know, um, being a survivor of an abusive relationship and all of these things. So my journey has been very, I've been through struggle. And so I think that people can see how I've risen above and have been able to live my dream. So I think in terms of life advice, I do have good advice to partake.
Very powerful. What do you treasure most about your human abilities?
Oh, my intuition. I think my intuition is very strong, and that is, of course, I credit meditation for that.
Mm, mm. Throughout your whole life, what is the most consistent thing about you?
That's a hard one, Ron. This is
Yeah,
hard.
that's the point.
What is the most consistent thing about me? That I'm always creating.
All
I'm
right.
always creative.
Well, that's a solid answer right there. All right. On the other end of the spectrum, throughout your whole life, what has changed the most?
I think motherhood has changed a lot for me. because I
Mhm.
mean, that's part of like, I've three things that I'm really focused on in life are my children, art, um, and, contributing to the world, right? So, um, definitely that part has been a lot of change and it's always changing. It's like you're always, you know, you're never perfect. You're doing your best. And, especially when they get to the teenage years and they change, they go through this change and from kids to teenagers, like that's the change. Yeah.
Mhm. I so many things I want to say, but I think any parents out there know already, so I'll leave it there. What is it that you find strangest about reality?
That it actually, you can create your own reality, that we're actually living in a simulation, that you can
Mm.
actually manifest your reality. And there are tools for that. And the mind is very powerful, the human mind.
Well, on the heels of that, this question is about, when do you remember the most recently, when do you remember feeling alive? And it's that feeling we've all gotten when, I don't know, something happened, something said, and it just sparks something unexpectedly, and you just feel completely alive. When's the most recent experience of that for you?
Oh wow. As an artist, I'm very blessed that I do what I do, because when you have those epiphanies, those moments where, you create art, you're showing your art, and people are there and you're interacting with people with your artwork, like that for me is very, very, that's what I live for. There's one moment in Davos in China. I was just in Dalian, China, exhibiting HeartSpace. And, I always love going to different countries and showing the art just to see the reaction, right? And one young lady, she must have been in her early 20s, came up to me at the end of the conference and she said, can I please take a picture of you? And then she started getting very emotional. She started crying and saying, it's such an honor to meet you. And she said, I see you as my teacher. And I didn't understand your art before, but once I understood the message, it really has touched me. And you're like a teacher to me. And I of course I started to cry, and then we took a lovely tearful picture together. But that's, you know, that's what I live for.
Yeah, I mean, that's a moment. Those moments are super powerful.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Super powerful.
If you weren't human, oh, you're going to love this one. If you weren't human, what would you be?
I would be a horse. I would be a horse. I'd be a wild horse, like running across a beach.
That's just a beautiful scenario.
Yeah. A
Uh,
beautiful black horse, black mare with
well,
ponies.
this is not time for personal stories, but I have friends with badges, and we were able to ride horses on the beach here around Malibu. So that's just a treat. Yeah,
Hello.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, super great.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So, leaders and influences, right? So, and you touched on some of these already.
Mm.
We're going to kind of, wind down a little bit, but I want to cover a few things for our listeners. I want to get, any suggestions you've got for leaders or influences that have been powerful to you that they might be able to, track down, follow, or get the same powerful message from. And then separately is AI resources. So any AI you're using that our listeners could use, any suggestions on anything you might be doing. And then ultimately, I want to make sure we cover anything we haven't covered about you, your art, and anything else. So let's go back to the leaders and influences. Can you have any suggestions there?
Absolutely. I definitely recommend that people read Marshall McLuhan's work, Understanding Media, or The Medium is the Message. The Medium is the Message. His books have been really seminal in the formation of my ideas and the way I see the world. And I would love to see some scholarly updates on his how he would see the current situation with AI and the convergence of blockchain, AI, metaverse, quantum computing, all of this, and how he would think about it. I mean, if he were alive today, he'd be so happy. I feel so blessed to be alive. Like I agree with you completely, Ron. And in terms of what was the other part of the question?
The second point was going to be resource list.
Ah,
So, yeah.
I definitely would pay attention to Llama right now
Mhm.
as an open source AI and how that's going to revolutionize AI and taking it out of the control and the hands of the big players and into everybody, because everyone will be able to create using Llama, using open source, because with with the tools that we have now, we don't need to know how to code. We just need to know how to architect and design the UX and the UIs. And the AI will code for us. So I would pay greater attention to that aspect of AI development, instead of creating boring APIs on how to create a like an agent for your emails or some bullshit like that. Like go deep and architect something new, because we have the tools now.
Where could they go? Where could the listeners go to dig deeper on what you just said on the architecture, what to look for, how to do it? Because you just brought up a very solid point. Any
Uh,
suggestions?
to be very honest with you, Ron, this stuff is all very new. What I just told you right now is so bleeding edge that there's no resources for it. People are
Yeah,
just starting it now. And
yeah.
that's the thing about the time horizon for AI is so fast, so short that, things like this that I'm saying right now literally just started a few weeks ago.
Yes. Now, and that's what I've been finding from the beginning. Look at GPT. ChatGPT came out November of 22, which is about a year and a half ago, not
Can't
much
believe it.
longer. And what's happened each and every day is the snowball growing. And what you
Mm.
just said is really powerful. And I guess I've got in my mind any listeners here, the ones that are in the industry and spending hours and hours and hours on this, they'll figure it out. They'll figure out all these things. But I'd like to be inclusive of people that actually have other jobs, other demands on their time, and they don't have countless hours per week to do this. Um, so I guess with that, I would just say go to Llama, just start playing, put in 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever you could do, touch on it. And I think the learning process will come out of that. Do you agree with all that?
And stay tuned. I can actually follow up with more information. We can always do another show and we can deep dive, and you have to meet Imani Wadi, who is the founder of Julia AI. He would be a fantastic guest to have, because see, here's the thing. This is the shift now. We're moving away from the classic sort of image that we have of a Silicon Valley like tech developer, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer going to be that. It's going to be kids. It's going to be people in all different fields using AI to architect whatever they need and putting it together. And I think that's the future of how we're going to educate kids of how to use AI. We're actually developing through Julia AI education programs to actually help people know how to do it. So make it easy, make it like as easy as playing Roblox, and it should be like gamified and easy and fun, right?
Yeah.
And I also recommend everybody should be reading as much as they can on Michael Clark's blogs. Michael Clark, data scholar, you could find him on LinkedIn,
Yep.
and he's dropping that book in January. So keep your eye out on that. But he's done podcasts. Watch a podcast with Michael Clark, and
Yeah. Go. You can go into edgeofai.xyz as a URL, or go into YouTube and search it for Michael Clark, because we interviewed him. It's been quite a while now, which is kind of great because it still stands up tremendously.
oh, it is. And let me tell you, I mean, he's basically advising world governments on data sovereignty policies, and he's also created these reports and proposals that are being implemented as we speak. So there is a huge push for this, a huge
Yeah.
interest,
Really
and
fantastic.
it's
Really
coming.
great. So let's. I want to kind of wrap up, but I want to wrap up with first of all, is there anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't? And please let us know the best places for people that want to follow your work and what you're doing, where they should go to do that.
I believe that we have covered everything that we need to cover. And if you want to find me, you can Google me. So Krista, Krista Kim, and my website is KristaKimStudio.com. I'm available on all social media channels, and LinkedIn is great as well. LinkedIn, I use LinkedIn a lot. I like it. And yeah, I'm. It's a pleasure to chat with you, Ron. So much fun.
Krista, thank you so much. I've absolutely enjoyed it, and I know a lot of our we're gonna have a lot of viewings on this one. It's been really really great. So
Awesome.
with that, it's time for another safe landing at the outer edges of the AI universe for today. This is your Captain Ron, and on behalf of our guest and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for choosing to voyage with us today. We wish you a safe and enjoyable continuation of your journey. When you come back aboard, bring some friends. More the merrier. If you're listening, go to Spotify or iTunes right now, rate us, and say something awesome. You can also now catch us at myco.io. That's myco.io, where you can watch and earn for your time and attention. Don't forget to visit edgeofai.xyz. Mark your calendars for our next voyage. We'll continue unraveling AI's mysteries and advancements. And until then, bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of AI reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. While we make every effort to ensure that the information about AI technology is accurate and up to date, we cannot guarantee its accuracy, completeness, or timeliness. We make no representations or warranties of any kind with respect to the information, products, or services discussed. Please be aware AI may occasionally generate incorrect or misleading information and produce offensive or biased content. Under no circumstances shall we be liable for any loss or damage, including, without limitation, indirect or consequential loss or damage, or any loss or damage arising from loss of data or profits arising out of or in connection with the use of technology discussed on our podcast. Additionally, our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. Lastly, time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, edgeofai.xyz, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, privacy policy, and copyright notice.